certainly it is, when I was younger, it was hard not to fall prey to a hatred of the government, to a sort of anger and frustration at, the newspaper articles that were going on, and everything that's in the news, and all of the blindness. As my wife and I would talk about, it was it really felt like we were in the middle of a plague, and in that plague people were falling over and dying, and we had a cure. And not only, and so we were walking around saying to everyone, we have a cure, you don't have to be sick. Myself philosophically, my wife psychologically. And not only would nobody take our medicine, but nobody would even admit that they were sick. And not only would nobody admit that they were sick, but they all said that we were sick. We have a sort of interesting personal challenge that's been cooking for about a year, a little longer for myself, insofar as, we have no contact with what my wife calls the foo, which is a slightly technical term for family of origin, and what I call the ABC, which is the accidental biological cage. And, gosh, I tell you, explaining this away is really not very easy. We face a lot of hostility and tension around, when people say to me, how's your brother? And I say, I don't know. I haven't seen him regularly, or barely seen him in 6 years. They're also feeling a little bit like, not sure, it's related, not sure what to do next, not sure what's going to keep people motivated after they've expelled the poisons of corrupt relationships and family members and so on. So I'm going to talk about what's next, and then you're going to dislike me. Let me tell you the reality of this conversation, right, in terms of your life, right? If you're only listening to the podcasts, you're not in the conversation. You're not even close to being in the conversation. You could only be further from the conversation if you weren't speaking English. Or didn't. Reading 100 books on Kung Fu does not make you Chuck Norris. It makes you kind of an insufferable know-it-all. People who read 100 books on Kung Fu think they know Kung Fu. And they tend to be know-it-alls. And they tend to not have a lot of humility. And of course that is the real essence of this conversation, is the humility that comes from actually trying to bring it to bear in the world. So once you got your personal life cleaned up, and you've gotten rid of the bad people in your life, and you worked with vulnerability and so on, when people say, well, what now? As if you don't know. You know. You know what now? I'm just telling you directly so that you can't hide from your knowledge of what's next, which you know. And the reason I know that you know is you're not buying t-shirts. That's how I know that you know what is next. What is next is getting out into the world. What is next is spreading the health that you have earned through this conversation, through your application of this conversation. Once you have cured yourself, the next step is to cure the world. And you know that. You don't like it because that pushes you right up against your fears. And of course the world is a heavy wind set against the sail of truth, right?